In a quiet village surrounded by misty hills and whispering trees, there lived a girl named Era who often wandered toward a hidden lake that shimmered softly under the moonlight. This lake was called the Lake of Peace, Sugan-ki-jil, by the villagers, though few dared to visit it at night, believing it to be enchanted. Era, however, found it comforting, a place where her mind could breathe and her heart could speak. Each night after her chores were done, she would quietly sneak away, her bare feet brushing against dew-kissed grass, her shawl hugging her shoulders, and the stars above twinkling like little stories waiting to be told. She'd sit by the edge of the lake where the breeze carried a scent of jasmine and wet earth, and where the moon's reflection lay perfectly still upon the water, like a secret the night refused to spill. Era would whisper her dreams to the lake, dreams of flying without wings, of finding a home in the clouds, of being able to dance on water, and of hearing the stars hum lullabies. The lake listened in silence, ripples forming gently as if nodding, and sometimes, just sometimes, the wind would carry her words far into the woods where owls blinked slowly, and sleeping deer shifted in their dreams. One evening, after a particularly tiring day, she reached the lake just as the moon rose full and golden, and a sleepy hush settled over everything. The grass rustled softly, as if sighing. Era rested her head against a rock warmed from the day's sun and slowly drifted into sleep, the sound of gentle water and swaying reeds soothing her. In her dream, she found herself walking on the lake's surface, barefoot, light as air, each step leaving behind blue sparkles that danced before fading away. Around her, the trees leaned closer, their leaves glowing faintly as though they were made of moonlight, and a chorus of fireflies hovered like floating stars. A swan, pure white and glowing softly, approached her without sound, speaking not in words but in warm waves of feeling, curiosity, safety, kindness. The swan gestured, and Era followed, stepping further across the water. They entered a dream realm hidden within the lake, where the sky was a deep violet and stars hung low like glowing fruit. In this world, forgotten memories waited patiently, floating like petals on still water. Era touched them and saw her childhood. A paper boat race during monsoon, the first time she climbed a tree, her grandmother's hands weaving stories into her hair. Everything that had once made her smile now lived here in perfect peace. As she walked further, the swan flapped its wings gently and led her to a small island in the middle of this dream lake. There, glowing trees surrounded a circle of light that pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. She stepped into the circle and suddenly felt all the noise inside her, worries, fears, loneliness, evaporate like morning mist. The silence here wasn't empty, it was full, warm, kind. Stars dipped from the sky, humming lullabies only her heart could hear. Time didn't move here the way it did in the real world. One moment stretched on forever, and forever felt like a single breath. She met a younger version of herself on that island, laughing, curious, full of wonder. They held hands, and all the sadness she had hidden in her growing heart melted away. Birds flew above, their wings painted with colors she had never seen before, hues that existed only in dreams. Flowers bloomed around her feet with every step she took, bluebells, moonflowers, dream lilies, and they whispered stories as she passed. The swan watched her gently, as if guarding her heart while she explored. Somewhere deep in that dreamland she heard voices, the comforting tone of her father singing an old lullaby, the giggle of her best friend from long ago, the creaking of the old wooden swing that used to hang outside her home. All those sounds made a melody of belonging. In that moment, Era realized that this lake did not just reflect the moon, it reflected the soul. Every tear she had ever cried had found a place here, and turned into a ripple of beauty. Every hope she dared not speak aloud had grown roots in this water and become something luminous. After what felt like both an eternity and a blink, the swan gently nudged her. It was time to return. Era stepped back, 1 foot at a time, the dreamscape fading behind her, the stars rising higher again, the wind becoming real. She opened her eyes to the sound of soft waves lapping at the lake's edge. The moon still hung above, but the world looked changed, as if it had been washed anew. She felt different too, lighter, fuller, quiet in a way that made her feel whole. She stood up, dusted herself off, and walked home with slow steps and a smiling heart. From that night onward, she returned to Sukun Ki Jil not just for peace, but for connection, for magic, for healing. Whenever life was loud and the world felt too heavy, she knew where to go. And though she never again walked across the water in quite the same way, the dream remained inside her like a lantern, glowing, quiet, and steady, guiding her through every dark night that followed. The lake listened still, and she continued whispering to it, not because she needed it to answer, but because it understood without speaking. The moon watched over her visits like an old friend, and the swan, somewhere in the silence, remained close. And so the lake and the girl kept each other's secrets, wrapped in the hush of night and the silver light of dreams. In a quiet little village, where the stars shone brighter than the streetlights and the nights were painted in shades of deep blue, there was an old wooden house with creaky floors, soft lamps, and a slow-turning ceiling fan that hung above the living room like a calm guardian. This fan, lovingly called Panka, had been there for as long as anyone could remember, and those who grew up under its soft humming breeze often whispered that it could speak, or perhaps tell stories not with words, but with the gentle rhythm of its turning blades. Every night, as the house settled into stillness and the only sounds were of distant crickets and the quiet sighs of wind through the windows, Panka began its nightly dance, spinning slowly at first and then picking up its own lullaby-like rhythm that filled the room with a strange warmth and safety, as if time had slowed down and dreams were waiting nearby, ready to wrap sleepy heads in comfort. Little Noor, a kind-hearted child with curious eyes and a soft smile, loved listening to Panka, not because it spoke loudly but because when she lay on her grandmother's lap, and the room dimmed into golden shadows, she believed the fan's hum carried stories from faraway lands, like tales from deserts where camels walked under a copper sun, or snowy villages where children played under lanterns hung from trees, or even secret underwater cities where fish wore tiny crowns and danced in coral castles. Her grandmother, Amma, never laughed at her for thinking that way. In fact, Amma would often close her own eyes and say, "Yes, Noor, tonight I heard Panka whisper about a mountain with a singing river," and Noor would giggle, feeling that strange, sweet feeling of safety, where even the shadows on the wall seemed like old friends playing quietly in the corners of the room. Panka didn't just cool the room, it seemed to brush away the day's worries, melting away little fears like bad dreams, loud noises or missing crayons, and in their place came softness, silence, and sleepy adventures. Sometimes Noor imagined that Panka was spinning stories directly into the room, weaving invisible threads of imagination, carrying voices of old storytellers, maybe even the wind itself, telling secrets it had gathered from the treetops, hills, and city rooftops far away. In the summer, when the heat wrapped everything in its sleepy arms, Panka turned faster, like it was trying to protect Noor. From the sticky warmth, whispering cool dreams of ice palaces and moonlit lakes, while in winter, when it barely moved, its hum was slower, like an old poet reciting gentle verses by the fireplace. One night, during a soft monsoon evening when rain painted music on the roof and the windows fogged up with misty breath, Noor lay beneath the fan with a small blanket, holding her stuffed cat close, and Amma whispered, "Listen closely tonight, Noor. Panka is telling the story of a bird who flew into the stars," and Noor believed it instantly, feeling the rhythm of the fan matching the beat of her sleepy heart, her breathing slowing, her eyes growing heavier, her dreams beginning to open like flowers in moonlight. In her dreams that night, the fan was no longer tied to the ceiling. It was a ship in the sky, with its blades turning into sails, and Noor flew across cloud oceans, met starfish that floated in the sky, and danced with glowing butterflies on silver beams of moonlight. She remembered laughing in the dream, and even in sleep, a smile played on her lips as Amma watched her with love, the fan still humming gently above. It sounds as familiar and soft as a bedtime song. As Noor grew older, the stories didn't fade but changed, becoming deeper, like the fan now carried lessons too. Stories of kindness, of helping a lost kitten in the rain, of sharing warm soup with a lonely traveler, or forgiving a friend after a fight. And each story left a little something behind, like a feather of wisdom or a golden thread of feeling safe in the world. Even guests who visited the house noticed something different, saying things like, "There's something peaceful about this room," or, "This fan, it makes me feel calm." And Noor, now a little older, would smile gently and say, "It tells stories, you just have to listen," though most grown-ups would chuckle and nod without really believing, but that didn't bother Noor, because she knew the magic wasn't in proving it, but in feeling it. On days when she felt lost, or the world outside seemed too noisy, she would come home, lie down beneath the fan, and let its sound wash over her like a wave of comfort, until her breath slowed and her heart remembered all the small, lovely things that mattered most. Even after Amma grew older and her voice became softer, she never stopped saying, "Listen to the Panka, Noor. Tonight it's telling a story just for you." And Noor, now tall enough to reach the fan switch herself, would turn it on slowly, letting it spin into motion like an old friend returning home. In time, the house stayed the same, wooden floors, sleepy curtains, and that same ceiling fan above, steady as ever, never needing to be replaced, as if it knew its job was not just cooling the room, but holding memories, carrying dreams, and keeping the stories alive. And so every night, even now, under its familiar sound, Noor closes her eyes and lets her thoughts drift, while the fan hums its timeless tale, turning softly above her, whispering a story, always a new one, always full of stars, kindness, and peace. In a faraway land, hidden behind misty hills and tall silver trees, there was a magical little house known only to the stars and the wind, a house that glowed softly at night and shimmered like a pearl under the moonlight. And this house belonged to none other than the sleep fairy, lovingly called the Neend Key Peri by those who believed in her gentle powers. She was a kind, glowing figure with wings made of moon dust and eyes that sparkled like dew on morning leaves, and every night, when the sky turned navy blue and the stars blinked into life, she would leave her magical house to sprinkle sleepy dust on children around the world, making sure their dreams were soft, peaceful, and full of gentle adventures. But what many didn't know was that her home, this glowing, secret place, was filled with the most extraordinary things. Talking pillows, giggling teacups, floating candles, and a soft river of mist that sang lullabies as it flowed quietly through the kitchen floor. The sleep fairy's house wasn't big, but it was warm and filled with comfort, with glowing windows that never needed curtains because they only let in starlight, and every corner whispered calm stories to anyone who sat still long enough to listen. Each night, Before beginning her journey, named Key Perry would sit on her soft velvet chair and read from her book of dreams, a magical book filled with new dreams written by moonbeams, dreams for lonely children, tired parents, worried little animals, and even restless clouds who forgot how to sleep, and after choosing the perfect dreams, she would pack them into her dream pouch, a floating bag made of soft clouds stitched with silver thread, and tiptoe out into the sky with her glowing wings barely making a sound. She would visit quiet towns, floating islands, snowy forests, and big cities where the lights never slept, always pausing above a window where a child tossed and turned, whispering gentle words and sprinkling just a little magic until their breathing slowed and their eyelids fluttered shut. She knew each child by their heartbeats, could sense when someone was afraid or lonely, and her gift was not just dreams but the feeling of being safe, the warmth of love, and the deep comfort of knowing that everything would be okay by morning. But one quiet night, when stars were especially bright and the sky was full of sleepy silence, named Key Perry returned home early and sat on the roof of her house, looking up, wondering if maybe someone, somewhere, would ever visit her magical house, someone who needed sleep as much as they needed wonder. Just as she was thinking that, a soft knock echoed through the air, not at her door, but in her heart, and when she looked down, there stood a little girl named Anya, wide-eyed and wrapped in a soft blanket, not scared, just curious, because she had followed a trail of glowing dust through her dream and arrived at the fairy's home. Surprised but smiling, named Key Perry floated down and invited Anya inside, and the little girl stepped into the house like it was a living dream. Walls that breathed warmth, a ceiling painted with stars that blinked back, and a couch that hummed lullabies when touched. Anya looked around with wonder, touching shelves full of dreams in little jars, each labeled with a child's name, and a room filled with floating books that opened when you whispered, "Tell me a tale." Named Key Perry made her a cup of warm moon milk, sweet and light like clouds, and as Anya drank, the house gently rocked like a cradle, and the wind outside whispered songs in a language only hearts could understand. The fairy asked, "Do you like it here?" And Anya nodded with sleepy eyes, saying, "This place feels like a hug." And the fairy beamed, for no one had ever said something so true. They sat together on a swing made of silver ropes and listened to the stars telling stories of ancient skies, and slowly Anya began to yawn, her head leaning against the fairy's soft shoulder. Her breathing slower, deeper, as if her soul had found rest. Named Key Perry smiled and gently lifted her, placing her into the guest bed made of soft petals and cloud feathers, tucking her in with a blanket woven from starlight and dreams, then whispered a soft goodnight into her forehead, and for the first time, someone slept in the house of the sleep fairy. That night, the whole magical home glowed warmer, as if happy to share its peace, and named Key Perry didn't leave to deliver dreams, for the dream had already come home. In the morning, Anya woke in her own bed, unsure if it had been real, but there was a tiny silver feather on her pillow and a feeling in her chest that made her smile for days, the kind of feeling that only comes when you've been somewhere truly special. From that night on, the house of the sleep fairy continued its glow, and named Key Perry kept flying, but sometimes, just sometimes, she would sit on her velvet chair and wonder if one day, another dreamer might find her home again. And as the stars turned and nights returned, the house remained hidden between worlds, a place of deep rest, soft love, and the magic of sleep itself, waiting always to share its peace with a gentle heart ready to believe. Far beyond the reach of city lights, across golden fields and behind hills covered in soft fog, there was a secret jungle unlike any other, a place where the trees whispered, the flowers sang, and even the rocks had stories to tell. This was the jungle where everything could speak, and its name was forgotten by maps but remembered in dreams, for only those with the quietest hearts and the biggest imaginations could find it. In this jungle, when the sun rose, the leaves stretched like lazy cats, and greeted the morning with soft yawns, while the rivers giggled as they danced around pebbles, telling them about the stars they saw the night before, and the birds. Oh, the birds! They didn't just sing, they spoke in poems, telling tales of cloud kingdoms and faraway rainbows, and in the middle of this gentle, magical jungle lived a little boy named Sammy, who had stumbled upon it one misty evening while chasing a falling star. He wasn't afraid, for the jungle wrapped around him like a soft blanket, and the first to greet him was a cheerful old tree with a beard made of moss who said, "Hello, little dreamer, welcome to our forest of voices." And Sammy blinked in surprise but smiled back, feeling something deep inside him relax like a sigh, as if he had found something he didn't know he was missing. The jungle was alive with kindness. Stones hummed lullabies under his feet, butterflies whispered secrets in his ears, and the wind told him jokes that made the flowers giggle. But what made the place truly magical was that it listened just as much as it spoke, and when Sammy told the jungle he sometimes felt lonely, the grass curled around his toes and said, "You're never alone here." And he believed it. Each day, he explored a little more, meeting a sleepy lion who recited bedtime stories, a wise turtle who told tales about the moon, and a tiny blue mushroom that sang songs only when it rained, and every night, the stars would lower themselves just a little closer to the treetops so they could hear the jungle's bedtime stories, which were shared in soft voices by the wind, the leaves, the animals, and even the air itself, wrapping the jungle in calm and dreams. Sammy built a little house from fallen leaves and glowing stones near the heart of the jungle, where a crystal-clear pond reflected the dreams of anyone who looked into it, and he spent his days listening, learning, and sharing his own stories too, which the jungle loved. The flowers would lean in closer, the birds would quiet their songs, and even the clouds would float slowly by just to hear what he had to say. One day, the jungle asked him, "Would you like to stay here forever?" And Sammy thought about it, his heart filled with peace, but he remembered his family back home, and he softly said, "Not forever, but maybe for now." And the jungle understood, because it never held anyone too tightly, only just enough to feel safe. Weeks passed like soft feathers on the wind, and the boy who once ran after stars had become a storyteller of the jungle, and every night before sleeping he would sit on a soft bed of moss, and all around him, creatures gathered, the glowing bugs, the talking frogs, even the shy stones, and together they'd listen to Sammy's voice, now full of wonder, telling stories he made up from the dreams the pond showed him. One night, while the jungle whispered a lullaby made of wind and starlight, Sammy felt sleepier than ever before, and the old mossy tree tucked him into his moss bed and said, "You've become part of our story now." And as Sammy drifted off to sleep, he felt the gentle hum of a jungle that loved him like a friend, a place where nothing was silent and everything spoke in kindness. The next morning, he awoke in his own bed, sunlight peeking through the curtains, and for a moment he wondered if it had all been a dream. But there, sitting by his pillow, was a single leaf shaped like a heart with tiny words on it that read, "Come back when the wind calls your name." And Sammy smiled, because deep down, he knew the jungle was real and waiting, just beyond the last page of sleep. Far beyond the sky we see, past clouds made of silver mist and stars that sparkle like whispers, there is a secret place called the City of the Moon, where soft light flows through the streets like rivers of peace, and every building is made of smooth glass that glows gently at night, glowing with dreams and calm. In this magical city, no one speaks too loudly, and everyone walks slowly, as if floating in a dream. For this is the land of the Sleep Queen, the gentle guardian of restful nights, who wears a crown made of stardust and floats above the city in her moon-shaped castle where the wind sings lullabies and the curtains are spun from clouds. Each night, as the earth grew quiet and sleepy children laid their heads on pillows, the Sleep Queen would stretch her arms wide and send shimmering waves of sleep across the sky, wrapping the world in softness and dreams. And in her city, the bells never rang loudly but chimed like tiny whispers, and the fountains didn't splash but hummed. Gentle music that made even the stars blink slowly with joy. The city of the moon was only visited by those who truly needed rest, lost dreamers, tired hearts, and children whose minds were too busy to sleep. And one night, a little girl named Aisha, with sleepy eyes and a heart full of wonder, found herself standing at the edge of a glowing path made of moonlight, guided there by the whisper of a breeze that smelled like warm milk and soft wool. And before she knew it, she was walking through a silver gate into the quietest, calmest city she had ever seen. The moonlight made everything sparkle gently, not in a sharp way, but in a way that felt like someone was hugging her without touching her, and soft music floated through the air like feathers drifting in the sky. She wandered slowly, passing buildings that looked like stacked stars, and tiny shops that sold jars of dreams, glowing like jellyfish. And as she stepped into the main square, the Sleep Queen appeared, floating down like a feather, her eyes filled with the calm of 1,000 peaceful nights, and she smiled at Aisha and said, "You've come far, little dreamer. Would you like to rest here a while?" And Aisha nodded, feeling a warmth grow in her chest. The queen led her to a floating boat made of moon petals that gently sailed across a sky river of silver light, showing her the whole city, gardens that bloomed only under starlight, libraries filled with soft-voiced books that read themselves aloud, and playgrounds made of clouds where giggles floated like bubbles. And Aisha laughed, not loudly, but in the quiet way you do when your heart is full and nothing hurts. As they passed through the dream hall, the Sleep Queen waved her hand, and Aisha saw dreams floating like bubbles, some of kittens learning to fly, others of children riding stars like horses, and even one of a forest where every tree whispered a lullaby. "These are dreams the city keeps safe," said the queen, "until someone needs them." And Aisha gently touched one, feeling it melt into her, filling her with calm and magic. When it was time to sleep, the Sleep Queen led her to a bed carved from a moonbeam, soft as air and warm as a mother's hug. And as Aisha lay down, the city sang to her, a song made of breeze and light, of stars breathing slowly, and of silence that wasn't empty but full of kindness. The Sleep Queen tucked her in with a blanket made of dream threads and kissed her forehead with a glow that smelled like jasmine and honey, and Aisha felt her body grow lighter, her breath slow down, her thoughts melt into nothing but comfort, and before her eyes closed, she whispered, "Thank you," and the queen replied, "Rest well, my little star." And just like that, Aisha drifted into the deepest, most peaceful sleep she'd ever known, her dreams floating gently above her like petals on water. In the morning, she woke up in her own bed, sunlight dancing on the wall, but in her hand was a tiny silver star, warm to the touch, and as she held it close, she knew the city of the moon was real, and that the Sleep Queen still watched over her, ready to welcome her back whenever her dreams called for peace again. In the heart of a quiet valley, where the wind whispered through golden fields and butterflies danced lazily in the sun, there stood a very old and very large brown tree, known to all as the buraped, whose bark was wrinkled like a wise old face and whose branches stretched like gentle arms into the sky. And though the children of the nearby village often played under its shade, few knew the secret it carried deep inside its wooden heart. A secret world of dreams that only came alive when the Stars filled the sky and the moon smiled down softly on the earth. The Burra Ped wasn't just a tree. It was a keeper of dreams, a gentle guardian who had watched over generations of sleepy souls, and every night when the world fell quiet and even the owls stopped hooting, the tree would hum low, like a lullaby that rose from the earth, and its leaves would shimmer with a glow no one could see unless their hearts were truly tired and truly kind. One such night, a small boy named Sammy wandered into the valley, holding a pillow in one hand and a stuffed rabbit in the other, too restless to sleep, his thoughts swirling like little storms in his head, and he lay down under the tree, hoping the soft grass might help him feel calm. But the moment he closed his eyes, the Burra Ped opened its secret heart, and Sammy found himself no longer lying in grass but floating on a warm breeze of golden leaves, drifting into a dreamscape where everything was calm and glowing, where the clouds were as soft as cotton candy and the sky was painted with colors that didn't even have names yet. There, in this magical world, Burra Ped was alive, not just as a tree, but as a gentle guide who walked beside him with slow wooden footsteps, showing him dream after dream like pages in a book, dreams of gentle rivers where fish sang lullabies, dreams of mountains that whispered bedtime stories, dreams of kind animals who wore pajamas and built homes from starlight, and Sammy felt his heart grow light. His thoughts slowed down, his breathing matched the rhythm of the dream world. The Burra Ped spoke without words, sending feelings through the air, feelings of warmth, safety, and deep quiet. And as they walked together, Sammy asked in his heart, "Why do you keep these dreams hidden?" And the Burra Ped sent him an answer through the rustle of its leaves. Because not everyone listens when the world is quiet. Only those who seek peace can hear. And Sammy smiled, for he understood that this was not just a place to sleep but a place to heal. As they wandered deeper, they came to a lake that held the dreams of the past, where reflections showed the most peaceful memories of the tree, children it had comforted, stories it had heard, and nights it had protected from storms. And Sammy dipped his fingers into the lake and felt thousands of soft dreams wrap around him like a warm blanket, and he knew, without being told, that this was a gift, that Burra Ped had chosen to share its secret with him because his heart was open. Finally, the dream began to slow, and the sky above them darkened gently, not with fear but with sleepiness, and the Burra Ped, now glowing softly like an ember, guided him back to the edge of the dream, and with a final hum, it placed a leaf on his chest, one that shimmered faintly like a nightlight, and Sammy slowly opened his eyes, finding himself once again under the old tree, his rabbit still beside him, the stars still shining above, but now, his heart was still, his mind quiet, and he felt a calm he had never known before. He sat up and looked at the tree, and though it stood silently, he felt it watching, gently protecting, and from that night on, Sammy slept peacefully, returning to the Burra Ped in his dreams whenever the world felt too loud, and the tree, proud and silent, continued its ancient duty, holding the secret dreams of all who needed rest, whispering stories into the night, and keeping the magic of peaceful sleep alive for those who believed. In a quiet little village surrounded by green hills and singing streams, there lived a boy named Arif, whose curious eyes were always searching for hidden places and secret wonders. And one calm afternoon, while chasing a colorful butterfly near the forest's edge, he stumbled upon a narrow path covered in soft moss and golden leaves, a path that seemed to hum a sleepy tune that no one else could hear. And though the sun was still out, a gentle breeze wrapped around him like a cozy blanket, pulling him softly forward until he found himself standing before the mouth of a small cave, almost hidden beneath hanging vines and flowering bushes. And something in his heart whispered that this cave was different, not scary but silent and peaceful, as though it had been waiting for someone like him. With slow steps, Arif walked into the cave, the cool air brushing past his cheeks and the gentle scent of lavender filling his nose. And inside it was not dark but glowing softly with a warm, silver light that came from tiny stars on the walls, each one pulsing gently like a slow heartbeat. And as he walked deeper, the sounds of the world outside faded away. The birds, the wind, the buzzing insects, all replaced by a deep, quiet stillness that made his eyelids heavy and his thoughts slow like melted honey. And before he even realized, Arif was lying on a bed of cloud-like moss, looking up at the sparkling ceiling of the cave. And the stars above began to move, forming shapes and scenes, telling silent bedtime stories in light, stories of forests that breathed, of rivers that sang, of animals that dreamed just like humans. And the deeper he watched, the more he felt himself drifting, not just in mind but in spirit, floating gently into a land that felt like a dream but more real than anything he had ever known. In this dreamland, Arif walked through gardens made of soft music, he played with shadows that giggled, and drank water from fountains that whispered his name like an old friend. And the cave, which had brought him here, followed him in feeling, watching over him, keeping him wrapped in quiet, gentle safety. He met no other people, but he never felt alone, for the cave was always with him, guiding him gently through fields of floating feathers and forests of sleeping flowers, and each step he took made him feel lighter, as though he was walking into deeper layers of calm, and slowly his own thoughts became quieter, his worries like tiny birds flying away, until he could hear his own heartbeat matching the hum of the cave. Time didn't seem to move there. There were no clocks, no days or nights, only the soft rhythm of sleep, and when the moment came for him to return, he didn't need to walk back. The cave gently lifted him in a breeze that smelled like dreams, and carried him slowly, softly, back to the place where he had first entered, where the forest waited silently, where the butterfly had long flown away, and the sun had begun to set behind the hills, painting the sky in sleepy orange and blue. Arif opened his eyes to find himself lying at the cave's entrance, the soft moss still beneath him, but now he felt different, rested, peaceful, as though he had left something behind and found something deeper. And though he never told anyone exactly what he saw, he visited the cave often, not to explore but just to sit, to listen, and to feel that quiet song again, and in his dreams. Each night, he returned to that glowing world where stars told stories and everything was soft, slow, and kind, for the cave had become a part of him, and he, a part of the cave's forever dream. On a warm, peaceful night, the world seemed to stand still as the sky above was dotted with countless stars, each one shining brightly like little diamonds scattered across the heavens. The moon, a glowing orb in the darkened sky, cast a soft, silver light that danced gently across the earth. In the quiet village nestled between rolling hills, the air was filled with the sweet scent of jasmine and lavender that bloomed in the gardens. The streets were empty, save for the occasional rustle of leaves as a cool breeze passed through, whispering secrets to the trees. Inside a cozy little house, a young boy named Romy was tucked under his soft, warm blanket, his eyes wide open as he lay on his bed, staring up at the ceiling. The room was dimly lit by the soft glow of the moon filtering through the window, and the only sound was the steady hum of the old ceiling fan above him. He loved these quiet nights when the world felt so close yet so far away. The quiet of the night always filled him with a sense of peace, like he could hear the stories of the world if he listened carefully enough. Romy's grandmother had often told him stories about the stars, how each one had a story to tell, and how the moon was a silent storyteller, always watching over the world, gently guiding those who were ready to listen. Tonight, he was determined to hear those stories. He closed his eyes, trying to drift off to sleep, but the stillness of the night seemed to make him more awake than ever. His mind wandered to the farthest corners of his imagination, and soon he found himself floating through a field of stars. He imagined the soft, cool touch of the clouds beneath him as he soared higher and higher, the moon's light growing brighter as he reached out to touch it. He could feel the cool breeze against his skin, the air so fresh and light it seemed to carry away all his worries. In his dreams, he was no longer just Romy, the little boy in his cozy bed. He was a wanderer of the night sky, exploring places no one had ever been, a part of something much bigger than himself. As he floated among the stars, he could hear whispers, the soft voices of the stars telling their stories in a language only the heart could understand. Each one had its own tale to share, stories of ancient worlds, lost civilizations, and magical lands that only existed in dreams. One by one, the stars spoke, their voices mingling with the wind as Romy listened intently, captivated by their tales. The night seemed to stretch on forever, the moon's silver glow wrapping around him like a comforting blanket, keeping him safe as he ventured deeper into his dreams. Below him, the world slept, unaware of the journey he was on, of the stories he was hearing. The fan above him continued to hum, a soft, rhythmic sound that felt like a lullaby, lulling him deeper into his dream. His breathing slowed, matching the rhythm of the fan, as the night embraced him with a gentle, quiet power. He could feel the weight of the world lift off his shoulders, the worries of the day fading away, replaced by a sense of calm that he had never known before. The whispers of the stars grew softer, the stories turning into peaceful melodies that filled his soul with a sense of contentment. Romy smiled, drifting further into sleep, his mind floating among the stars as the night wrapped him in its tender, soothing embrace. The stars above seemed to wink at him as if to say, "Rest now, young dreamer. Tomorrow will bring more stories to share." The soft breeze outside the window carried the scent of jasmine and lavender, the fragrance of the night filling the room with a sweet calm. Romy's body sank deeper into the comfort of his bed, the gentle hum of the fan a constant presence, a reminder of the peace that filled the room. The moon smiled down at him, its light casting a soft glow on his face as he slept soundly, the stars keeping watch over him. And in his dreams, Romy continued his journey through the sky, exploring new worlds, listening to the stories of the stars, and floating among the clouds that felt as soft as pillows. Each dream was a new adventure, each story a new chapter in the tale of the universe. As the night wore on, the world outside grew quieter still, the trees swaying gently in the breeze, the stars twinkling above, and Romy, wrapped in the warmth of his dreams, drifted further and further into the peaceful silence of the night. The moon continued its watch, the stars kept whispering their stories, and Romy, the little dreamer, slept soundly, knowing that tomorrow would bring new wonders, new stories to explore, and new dreams to chase. The peacefulness of the night lingered, wrapping the world in its embrace, as Romy's dreams carried him further into the magical world where anything was possible, where stories came alive, and where peace reigned supreme. The fan continued its soft hum, the stars continued their silent song, and the night stretched on, a perfect, endless lullaby for a boy who had found peace in the stories of the universe. In a quiet, serene forest where the trees whispered old stories to the wind, there lived a little fawn named Shiro. Shiro was a gentle, innocent creature, with fur as soft as the clouds and eyes wide with curiosity. He lived in a lush green meadow, surrounded by tall oak trees, colorful wildflowers, and a gentle stream that hummed a soothing melody. The forest was his home, and he had never known a life beyond its borders. Shiro's days were filled with playful exploration, running through the meadows, nibbling on fresh grass, and basking in the warm sunlight that filtered through the canopy of leaves. The forest, with all its beauty and tranquility, was the perfect place for him to grow up, safe and free. But despite the peacefulness of his world, Shiro felt something missing. There were moments, when he lay under the stars at night or wandered through the woods alone, that he couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness. It was not fear or sadness, but rather an unexplainable longing, as if something in the world beyond his meadow was calling to him. Shiro could not understand what it was, but he knew that he had to go on a journey to find whatever it was that would fill the emptiness he felt inside. One cool morning, as the forest was still wrapped in the soft embrace of dawn, Shiro decided to set out. He took one last look at the meadow, where the wildflowers danced in the early morning breeze, and made his way toward the forest's edge. His heart was full of anticipation, though he didn't know exactly what awaited him. As Shiro ventured deeper into the forest, the trees became denser, and the sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling seemed to grow quieter. The air was cooler here, the light softer, as if the forest was protecting him from the outside world. After hours of walking, he reached a clearing where a small pond lay nestled between two moss-covered rocks. The water was crystal clear, reflecting the sky above like a mirror. Shiro approached the pond cautiously, taking in the beauty of the place. It was peaceful, calm, and serene, just the kind of place he had been searching for. He knelt by the water, gazing at the reflection of the trees and the birds flying above, and for the first time, he felt a sense of peace fill his heart. It was as if the quiet of the pond, the stillness of the water, had answered the longing inside him. Shiro closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the cool, fresh air fill his lungs. He realized that this was the peace he had been searching for all along. It wasn't something he could find by running away or exploring new places. It was something that existed within the quiet moments, in the simple beauty of nature. He felt a deep connection to the pond, to the forest, and to the world around him. The journey he had taken wasn't about finding something external, but about finding a place of peace within himself. As he sat by the pond, feeling the serenity of the moment, he noticed something else. The sound of the water, the soft rustling of the leaves, and the distant calls of the birds created a melody that seemed to echo through the forest. It was the sound of nature, of the world itself, speaking to him in a language that only the heart could understand. Shiro realized that this was the true meaning of peace. It was not the absence of noise or the absence of activity, but the ability to find stillness and calm in the midst of life's constant motion. It was the quiet moments, like the reflection in the pond, that allowed him to find balance and contentment. For hours, Shiro sat by the pond, watching the water ripple gently as a soft breeze passed by. He felt a sense of belonging, a deep connection to everything around him. The trees, the birds, the flowers, they were all a part of him, and he was a part of them. This realization filled him with a quiet joy, and he no longer felt the emptiness he had once carried. As the day turned to dusk, Shiro rose from the pond and turned to head back toward his meadow. He didn't feel the same urgency or restlessness he had felt earlier. The journey had not been about reaching a specific destination, but about discovering the peace that had always been there, just waiting to be found. The journey back seemed different, as if the world around him had shifted, and he now saw it through a new lens. The trees were taller, the sky bluer, and the flowers more vibrant. Everything seemed to hum with life, and Shiro could feel the heartbeat of the forest in the gentle rustling of the leaves. As he walked back toward the meadow, Shiro felt lighter, more at ease. He realized that true peace wasn't something that could be found in the distance or in some faraway place. It was something that was always within him, waiting to be discovered. It was the quiet moments, the stillness of the world, that allowed him to connect with the deeper truths of life. When Shiro returned to the meadow, he lay down in the soft grass, looking up at the sky. The stars were beginning to appear, one by one, as the night unfolded. The world around him was calm, and for the first time in a long time, he felt truly at peace. The journey he had taken had brought him not to a faraway land, but to a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. In the quiet of the night, with the soft rustle of the leaves and the gentle chirping of the crickets, Shiro drifted off to sleep, his heart full of the peace he had found. The journey had been long, but it had brought him home, to a place of quiet understanding, where the world's true beauty and calmness could be found in every small moment. And so, under the stars, in the heart of the peaceful forest, Shiro the fawn found his true home, a home that was not in a place, but in the peace he carried within him. In a small, peaceful village, where the mornings were filled with the sounds of birds chirping and the evenings bathed in a golden glow, lived a young girl named Mira. She was known for her sparkling eyes, which seemed to carry the entire world within them. There was something magical about Mira's eyes. People who met her often remarked that when they looked into her eyes, it felt like they were gazing into an endless world of dreams, a universe of possibilities that existed beyond the physical realm. Mira's eyes were not just beautiful, they were a window to a world unknown, a world that only she could understand. From a young age, Mira had always been fascinated by the world of dreams. Unlike other children, she would often sit alone by the river or under the shade of a tree, lost in her thoughts. Her eyes would glaze over, as if she were seeing something far beyond the physical world around her. To others, it seemed as if she was daydreaming, but to Mira, these moments were when she was visiting the world of her dreams. It was a world where anything was possible, where she could fly among the stars, dance with the wind, or explore the vast oceans without ever leaving her spot. This world was not a figment of her imagination. It was a place where she felt truly free, where her soul could roam without boundaries. But one evening, something unusual happened. As Mira sat by the river, gazing into the distance, she felt a soft tug in her heart, a feeling she couldn't quite explain. It was as though her dreams were calling out to her, urging her to take a journey beyond the world she knew. For the first time, she realized that her dreams weren't just confined to the realm of sleep, they were a gateway to something much bigger. Something that had been waiting for her all along. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Mira closed her eyes and let herself drift into the world of dreams. But this time, it wasn't like any other dream she had ever had. This time, she felt herself being pulled into the dream world. As if it were no longer a place she could only visit in her mind, but a realm she could actually step into. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer sitting by the river. Instead, she found herself standing in the middle of a vast, endless field of flowers. The colors were unlike any she had ever seen, vibrant shades of purple, blue, and gold that shimmered in the soft light of the sun. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of blossoms, and the gentle breeze carried the sound of distant laughter. Mira's heart swelled with wonder. She looked around, realizing that this was no ordinary place. This was the world of her dreams, the world she had always visited in her mind, but now it was real. She could touch it, feel it, and breathe it in. As she walked through the field, she noticed that the flowers seemed to move in time with her steps, as though they were dancing with her. The ground beneath her feet was soft and warm, and the sky above was painted with swirling clouds of silver and gold. The world was alive with energy, and every corner she turned revealed a new, magical wonder. She soon came across a river, its waters sparkling like diamonds, flowing gently through the landscape. Mira knelt by the riverbank and watched the water swirl around smooth stones, as if the river itself was telling a story. She reached out to touch the water, and as her fingers grazed the surface, she felt a sense of peace and tranquility wash over her. It was as if the river was inviting her to listen, to understand its timeless rhythm. As she sat by the river, Mira heard a soft voice calling her name. She looked up and saw a figure standing on the other side of the river, silhouetted against the golden sky. The figure was tall and graceful, with flowing hair that shimmered like the stars. There was something ethereal about them, as if they were both a part of the world and beyond it. "Mira," the figure called softly, "you have entered the realm of dreams, but now, it is time for you to see beyond the dreams themselves." Mira's heart raced with excitement and curiosity. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. The figure smiled, their eyes gleaming with ancient wisdom. "I am the keeper of dreams," they said. "I am here to guide you on a journey beyond your wildest dreams, to a place where your true self can be revealed." Without hesitation, Mira stood up and walked toward the figure. The river, which had seemed so wide and impossible to cross, now parted before her, as if the world itself was making way for her journey. As she crossed the river, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace and purpose fill her heart. She knew that this was the moment she had been waiting for. The Keeper of Dreams led Mira through a forest of towering trees with leaves that shimmered like silver. The path they followed seemed to change with each step, revealing new wonders and hidden places. The air was thick with magic, and every step Mira took brought her closer to something greater, something that had always been a part of her. As they walked, the Keeper spoke of the ancient powers of dreams, of how they shaped the world and guided the souls who dared to dream. "Dreams," the Keeper said, "are not just visions in your sleep. They are the whispers of the universe, calling you to awaken, to discover the hidden truths of the world. You, Mira, have the gift of seeing these dreams, and now, it is time for you to learn how to listen to them." With each passing moment, Mira felt herself growing stronger, more connected to the dream world and its infinite possibilities. She realized that her dreams were not just a reflection of her desires or wishes, but a portal to a deeper understanding of the universe. They were a way to tap into the magic that existed in everything: the stars, the trees, the flowers, and the very air she breathed. When they finally reached the heart of the forest, the Keeper turned to her and smiled. "You have come far, Mira. Now, you must awaken and carry the wisdom of this world with you into the waking world. Remember, your dreams are not just for you, they are for everyone. They are the seeds of change, of hope, and of possibility." With those words, Mira felt herself being gently pulled away from the dream world. As she opened her eyes, she found herself back by the river, where her journey had begun. But this time, she was not the same girl who had set out. She had discovered a new understanding of herself and the world around her. Mira's eyes still sparkled with wonder, but now, they carried a deeper meaning. The world of dreams was no longer something she visited only in her sleep. It was a part of her, a part of the world, and she knew that she could carry its magic with her always. As Mira returned to her village, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The dreams she had seen were not just fleeting images in her mind, they were the foundation of something greater, something that would shape the world in ways she couldn't yet understand. But she knew one thing for sure: The world of dreams was real, and it was within her reach every time she closed her eyes. In the heart of an ancient land, surrounded by towering mountains and hidden within a vast valley, there lay a mysterious city. This city, known only to a few, was called Sher, the Silent City. For as long as anyone could remember, the city had been shrouded in an eerie quiet. No sounds of laughter, no bustling of busy streets, not even the gentle hum of the wind. It was a city that lived in silence, and no one really knew why. The people who lived there had long ago forgotten the meaning of noise. They spoke to each other in whispers, and even their footsteps echoed with a strange, subdued rhythm. The streets, though paved with intricate patterns of stone, felt as though they were frozen in time. But there was one person in the city who was different, Ayan, a curious young boy who had always felt that something was missing in the stillness of Sher. Unlike the others, Ayan was not content with the silence. He longed to uncover the secret behind the city's quiet and why no sound ever seemed to break through its walls. Ayan's fascination with the city's silence began the moment he could remember. He had grown up hearing the stories told by the older generations, tales of a time when the city had been full of life and sound, when the streets were filled with music, laughter, and chatter. But one night many years ago, everything had changed. The city's once vibrant energy vanished, leaving behind only an eerie calm. A mysterious line, called Raz-Ki Laker, the line of secrets, was drawn along the city's edge, marking the boundary between silence and sound. It was said that no one could cross the line without facing the consequences, an unknown fate that no one dared to speak of. But Ayan, with his insatiable curiosity, could not stop thinking about that line. What lay beyond it? Why had the city been silenced? Why did no one ever speak of the line, and what did it mean? One evening, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the stone streets, Ayan decided he would find out. Armed with nothing but his courage, he set out toward the edge of the city where the mysterious Raz-Ki Laker was said to be. He walked slowly, his footsteps muffled by the soft earth, his heart pounding with both excitement and fear. As he neared the boundary, he could feel the air change. The world around him seemed to grow stiller, as though even the wind had been caught in a spell. And there it was, the Raz-Ki Laker, a faint but unmistakable mark on the ground, glowing with a soft, otherworldly light. It was not a line drawn by human hands, but a natural, almost magical, part of the earth itself. The moment Ayan stepped closer to it, he felt a strange sensation, as if the very essence of the city was watching him, waiting for him to make a choice. With a deep breath, Ayan stepped over the line. The instant his foot crossed the boundary, everything changed. A loud sound, like a burst of music, filled the air, shattering the silence that had gripped the city for so long. It was as though the city itself had woken up from a long, deep sleep. The wind began to stir, and the trees rustled as if they were whispering secrets. The once silent streets now seemed to be alive with sound. But something else was different too. The buildings around him, once plain and lifeless, now shimmered with vibrant colors, and the sky above was no longer just a dull shade of gray. It was painted in rich hues of red, orange, and purple, as if a sunset had spread across the entire horizon. Ayan stood there in awe, feeling the energy of the city surge through him. But even as he marveled at the beauty of the world around him, he felt a deep, unsettling presence. It was as though something, or someone, was watching him. Slowly, Ayan turned around to see a figure emerging from the shadows. The figure was cloaked in a long, flowing robe, and their face was obscured by a hood. They walked towards Ayan with purpose, their footsteps silent despite the newfound sounds around them. "You have crossed the line," the figure said in a voice that seemed both ancient and knowing. "Do you understand what that means?" Ayan's heart raced. What is this place? Why is the city silent? And what is this line? The figure paused, as if contemplating the right words to say. This city was once full of life, but it was cursed by the Raz-Ki Laker, the line of secrets. It was drawn to protect the city from the chaos of the outside world. Long ago, the people here made a choice to live in silence, to separate themselves from the noise of the world beyond. But silence came with a price. They were cut off from the rest of the world, bound to this city, unable to escape the quiet. And now, you have awakened something that was meant to stay hidden. Ayan frowned. What happens now? The figure stepped closer, their voice growing softer. Now, you must decide whether you will remain here in the silence, or whether you will break the curse. But know this. If you choose to leave, the silence will return, and the city will be forever trapped in its stillness. The choice is yours, but be warned. The consequences of breaking the silence are unknown. Ayan stood in silence, contemplating the figure's words. His mind raced with thoughts of what he had just discovered, the mystery of the Raz-Ki Laker, the curse that had silenced the city, and the power he now held in his hands. Should he free the city from its silence, knowing that it could change everything? Or should he leave it to rest, preserving the peace that had reigned for so long? With a deep breath, Ayan made his decision. "I will break the curse," he said firmly. "The people deserve to hear the world again." The figure nodded, as if they had been expecting this response. "Then go and let the world awaken. But remember, once the silence is broken, there is no turning back." As Ayan took a step forward, the ground beneath him seemed to pulse with energy. The city began to hum with life, as the sounds of laughter, music, and conversation filled the air. The sky above shimmered with the promise of new beginnings. Ayan felt the weight of the decision he had made, but he knew that the city, Kamamash-Sher, had been waiting for this moment. With that, the once silent city came alive, and Ayan became its hero, the one who had dared to break the silence and reveal the hidden world that lay beyond the Raz-Ki Laker. In a quiet town nestled between lush green hills, there was a small, old library that everyone loved to visit. It wasn't like the shiny, modern libraries of big cities, but rather a place that seemed to hold secrets in its walls. Dusty bookshelves lined the room, filled with tales of adventure, mystery, and forgotten worlds. But the one book that everyone in town whispered about was the Neend Ki Kitab, the Book of Sleep. This wasn't any ordinary book. Legend had it that the Neend Ki Kitab was magical, capable of sending anyone who read it into the most peaceful, restorative sleep. But not just any sleep. The book was said to be filled with stories that guided you through beautiful, vivid dreams. Dreams that took you to places where the impossible became possible. Some even claimed that the book contained a hidden page, a Gumshada Safa, a lost page that held the ultimate secret of sleep. No one had ever seen that lost page. It was rumored that anyone who found it would experience a sleep so deep and perfect that they would awaken with the answers to all their life's questions. But over the years, the Neend Ki Kitab had gathered dust, and the townspeople forgot about its magical abilities. Only a few still remembered the stories, like whispers in the wind. One rainy afternoon, a young girl named Mira wandered into the library. She was a curious soul, always seeking to unravel the mysteries of the world. Mira had heard the old stories about the Neend Ki Kitab from her grandmother, who used to tell her about the book's incredible powers before she passed away. With a heart full of hope, Mira decided that she would find the Gumshoota Safa herself. She wanted to experience the perfect sleep and perhaps discover something that would bring peace to her restless heart. As she entered the library, the familiar scent of old pages and polished wood filled her senses. The library was empty, the only sound being the soft tapping of raindrops on the window. She moved through the rows of books, her fingers grazing the spines, until she finally reached the shelf where the named Ki Kitab was said to be kept. It was an old, worn book, its cover faded with time. But there was something about it, something that felt alive, as if it were calling her. With a deep breath, Mira took the book from the shelf and opened it to the first page. The pages were thick, the text written in elegant, flowing script. She began to read, and as the words unfolded, she felt herself drifting into a peaceful trance. The stories in the book were unlike any she had ever read. They took her to lands of golden fields, where the wind carried sweet fragrances, to forests where trees whispered ancient secrets, and to oceans where the waves danced with the moonlight. Each story was more beautiful than the last, and Mira found herself lost in the pages, her body relaxing with every word. But despite the deep sense of peace the book brought her, Mira couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She remembered the tales her grandmother had told her. The Gumshoota Safa was still out there, hidden somewhere in the book. Myra's heart raced with excitement and determination. She was certain that if she looked hard enough, she could find it. As she turned each page, she noticed something strange. The words on the pages seemed to shift and change, as though the book was alive and responding to her. With every turn of the page, the world around her seemed to fade away. She was no longer in the library, but instead, she was in a lush garden, surrounded by colorful flowers that glowed softly in the moonlight. A gentle breeze caressed her face, and she felt an overwhelming sense of calm. In the center of the garden stood an ancient tree with golden leaves. The tree's branches seemed to beckon her, and without thinking, Mira walked towards it. As she approached, she noticed a small, glowing page caught between the branches. It was the Gumshoota Safa, the lost page. Her hands trembled as she reached out to take it. The moment she touched the page, everything around her began to change. The garden began to dissolve into mist, and Mira felt herself being pulled back into the library. She looked down at the page in her hand, her heart pounding in her chest. It was blank, except for a single line of text that appeared slowly as if being written right before her eyes. The key to true sleep is not in the dreams you seek, but in the peace you find within yourself. Mira read the words over and over, feeling their meaning seep deep into her heart. She realized that the perfect sleep wasn't about finding external things or magical worlds. It was about finding peace within herself, embracing the stillness, and letting go of the worries that had always kept her awake. As she closed the named Ki Kitab, she felt a deep sense of calm wash over her. The Gumshoota Safa had given her the answer she had been searching for all along. She understood now that true rest came from within, from letting go of the noise and embracing the quiet peace of the present moment. Mira left the library that day, her heart light and her mind at ease. She had found the secret of the Gumshoota Safa, and with it, the key to peaceful, restorative sleep. From that day on, whenever she needed rest, she would close her eyes, take a deep breath, and let the stillness inside her guide her into the most perfect sleep. And so, the named Ki Kitab remained on the shelf, waiting for the next curious soul to find it. But the secret of the Gumshoota Safa was no longer lost. It lived within Mira, and she shared it with others who sought peace in their own hearts. In a quiet village, where the air always smelled of fresh grass and wildflowers, there stood an ancient tree at the center of a vast meadow. The tree was not just any tree, it was the heart of the village. Its leaves would shimmer in the moonlight, and its branches would sway gently with the wind, as if whispering a melody. The villagers would often hear soft, sweet hums emanating from the tree, as though it was singing to the night. This was the Gunganada Hua Ped, the singing tree. But what made this tree even more extraordinary was its connection to the moon. Every night, when the sky would turn dark and the stars began to twinkle, the moon would shine its brightest. And that was when the Gunganada Hua Ped would start humming its most enchanting tune, a song that only the moon could understand. The villagers believed that the tree and the moon shared a secret, a bond formed over centuries, one that no one truly knew, except the tree itself. The villagers also spoke of a legend that had been passed down for generations. It was said that if anyone listened carefully enough to the song of the tree, they could hear the story of the moon's journey. The Chandni Ki Dastan, the tale of the moon's eternal dance across the night sky. The tree, being the keeper of this story, would share it with anyone who listened with an open heart. One evening, as the full moon rose above the horizon, casting a silvery glow over the meadow, a young girl named Syra sat under the tree. She had heard stories of the tree's song since she was a child, but had never truly understood its magic. On this night, her curiosity was too strong to resist. She decided that she would listen closely to the Gunganada Hua Ped and learn the Chandni Ki Dastan for herself. As Syra sat on the cool grass, the wind picked up and the leaves of the tree began to rustle. The sound was soft at first, like the gentle strumming of a distant harp. But then, as the moon rose higher, the tree's song grew louder and clearer. It was a melody so sweet and pure that it seemed to flow through Syra's very soul. She closed her eyes and let the song wash over her, her heart beating in time with the rhythm. The tree's song began to tell its story, weaving together ancient words in a language that felt familiar yet foreign. As Syra listened intently, she began to understand. The story began long ago, when the moon was young and filled with dreams of adventure. The moon was once a radiant being, full of energy and light, traveling across the vast expanse of the universe. But one fateful night, the moon gazed upon Earth and saw the suffering of the people below. They were lost in darkness, unable to find peace or happiness. The moon, moved by their pain, decided to offer them a gift, its light. From that moment on, the moon began its journey across the night sky, shining its light upon the world below. It danced across the heavens, casting a glow on everything it touched, bringing comfort to those who were awake in the darkness. It whispered secrets to the stars, shared stories with the wind, and caressed the mountains and oceans with its silver beams. But despite the joy it brought to others, the moon could never rest. It was always moving, always searching for something, though it did not know what. The moon longed for connection, for a love that would fill the emptiness it felt deep within. And so, it kept moving across the sky, never stopping, never returning to the same place twice. As the tree's song continued, Syra felt a deep sadness in her heart. She understood the moon's loneliness, its longing for companionship. But then, the song began to shift, becoming more hopeful. The moon's journey was not in vain. Over time, it began to realize that its light was not just a gift to the world. It was a part of something much larger. The moon's song was a lullaby to the earth, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was beauty and peace to be found. The moon had become a symbol of hope, a constant presence in the night sky that guided lost souls and comforted the weary. It was never truly alone because it was always with the people of Earth, shining its light to remind them that they were not forgotten. As the tree's song reached its crescendo, Syra felt a sense of peace settle over her. The Chandni Ki Dastan was not just a story about the moon, it was a story about love, sacrifice, and the beauty of giving without expecting anything in return. It was a tale of finding purpose in the quiet moments, of knowing that even in solitude, one could bring light to the world. The song of the tree began to fade as the night wore on, and Syra slowly opened her eyes. The moon was high in the sky, its silvery glow casting a serene light over the meadow. The Gunganada Hua Ped had finished its song, but the story remained in her heart. From that night on, Syra returned to the tree whenever the moon was full. She would sit beneath its branches and listen to the tree's song, knowing that each time, she would hear a new chapter of the Chandni Ki Dastan. And as she listened, she understood that the moon's light was not just a beacon for the world. It was also a reminder for all who listen to the song of the tree, that even in the darkest times, there is always light to be found, if only you open your heart to it. And so, the Gunganada Hua Ped continued to sing its song, and the moon continued its dance across the sky, knowing that its light would always reach someone who needed it. The song of the tree and the moon's tale became one, an eternal melody that would never fade, echoing through the hearts of those who listened closely enough. In a village nestled deep within the mountains, there existed a forest so quiet that even the wind seemed to whisper in hushed tones. This forest was known for its eerie silence, where every leaf and every twig remained still as if frozen in time. It was said that this silence held within it a secret, a melody that could only be heard by those who dared to listen closely at the right moment. The villagers called it the sonata, the silence. They often spoke of how it carried with it a mysterious song, Sapno Ka Geet, the song of dreams. No one knew where the song came from, but it was rumored that the song held the power to turn dreams into reality. It was said that whoever could hear the Sapno Ka Geet would find their most cherished dreams unfolding before them, like a beautiful tapestry woven with hope and wishes. However, this song was not easily heard. It was a soft, almost inaudible melody, hidden beneath the silence of the forest. Only those who truly believed in their dreams and had the patience to wait for the perfect moment could hear it. One such person was a young girl named Aisha. Aisha lived on the edge of the village, where the forest's edge met the open fields. She had heard the tales of the sonata and the Sapno Ka Geet all her life, but she had never truly understood what it meant. Her heart, full of unspoken desires and dreams, often wandered to the forest, yearning to hear the song. She had dreams of becoming an artist, but the path seemed long and uncertain. The villagers, although kind, believed that being an artist was not a practical life choice. Yet, Aisha never let go of her dream. She felt deep inside her heart that there was something magical about the forest's silence, something that might guide her toward the future she longed for. One evening, as the sun began to set and the sky turned a soft shade of orange, Aisha decided to walk into the forest. She had heard that the song was strongest during the twilight hours, when the world was neither fully awake nor fully asleep. Her heart raced as she walked deeper into the trees, the air growing cooler with every step. The forest, as always, was eerily quiet, the only sound the soft crunch of leaves beneath her feet. The trees stood tall and unmoving, their branches reaching towards the sky like silent guardians of the secrets within. Aisha walked for what seemed like hours, until the last traces of sunlight faded away, and the full moon rose high in the sky. The moonlight bathed the forest in a silver glow, casting long shadows that danced gently on the ground. She paused and closed her eyes, listening to the silence that enveloped her. There was something about the stillness that felt almost sacred, as if the entire forest was holding its breath, waiting for something. And then, almost imperceptibly, she heard it. The faintest of sounds, like a soft melody carried on the wind. At first, she thought it was just her imagination, but as she listened more closely, she realized it was the Sapno Ka Geet, the Song of Dreams. It was not loud or dramatic, but gentle and sweet, like the soft whisper of the wind through the trees. It was a melody that resonated deep within her soul, stirring something she had long forgotten, the pure, untainted joy of her dreams. The song seemed to wrap around her, filling her with warmth and peace. As the notes of the song filled the air, Aisha felt herself floating, as though the world around her was dissolving into light and sound. In that moment, she felt connected to the forest, the moon, and the stars above. Everything in the world seemed to align, and for the first time, she felt that her dreams were not just a distant fantasy, but something real, something within her reach. The Sapno Ka Geet began to grow clearer, as if the forest itself was sharing its secret with her. The melody was like a lullaby, sweet and tender, coaxing her into a peaceful state of mind. Aisha felt her worries dissolve, her fears vanish. She could see her future unfolding before her eyes, vivid and bright. She saw herself with a paintbrush in hand, creating masterpieces that would inspire the world. She saw people admiring her work, understanding her message, and feeling the emotions she poured into every stroke. The forest, the moon, and the stars had shown her that her dream was possible. As the song played on, Aisha felt a gentle breeze blow through the forest, carrying the scent of fresh flowers and the promise of new beginnings. She took a deep breath, feeling a sense of clarity and purpose fill her heart. The Sapno Ka Geet was not just a song, it was a reminder that dreams are not only meant to be wished for but also to be pursued with passion and determination. The melody was the heartbeat of her desires, the rhythm that would guide her toward her destiny. Aisha knew that she had to leave the forest, but she would carry the song with her always. As she made her way back home, the soft melody of the Sapno Ka Geet continued to echo in her mind, a sweet, unwavering tune that reminded her that she was capable of achieving her dreams. The forest had shared its secret with her, and now it was up to her to take that gift and make her dreams a reality. The next day, Aisha woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She no longer doubted herself or her abilities. The sonata had revealed to her the truth, that silence is not always empty. It is often the space where dreams are born and where hope is nurtured. Aisha smiled to herself as she picked up her paintbrush. She was ready to begin her journey, knowing that the song of the forest would always be with her, guiding her toward her dreams. And in the stillness of the night, when she closed her eyes, she would always hear the soft, sweet melody of the Sapno Ka Geet, whispering of all that was yet to come. On a serene night, when the sky was blanketed in darkness and the stars glimmered softly like distant whispers, something extraordinary happened. In the quiet village where nothing ever seemed to stir, something unusual appeared in the night sky, a star unlike any other. It wasn't just any ordinary star. This one shimmered with a deep, unfamiliar glow, casting a light that seemed to dance across the village, illuminating every corner with a strange, ethereal brilliance. The people of the village were no strangers to the night sky. For generations, they had gazed up at the stars, telling stories of ancient constellations and celestial wonders. But tonight, the sky felt different. The stars above twinkled as they always did, but one star in particular stood out. It wasn't part of any known constellation, nor did it resemble any star they had ever seen. It was far brighter, casting its glow over the sleepy village as if it had come from another world. In a small house at the edge of the village lived a young boy named Amir. He had always been fascinated by the stars. As a child, his grandmother had told him stories about the stars, how each one held the soul of someone long gone, watching over the earth from afar. Amir believed in these stories, and every night he would lie on the roof of his house, staring up at the sky, wondering what the stars would tell him if they could speak. That night, as he sat on the roof looking at the stars, something strange caught his eye. It was the unfamiliar star, glowing brightly against the velvet sky. Amir's heart skipped a beat. He had never seen a star like this one before. Its light was different, not cold and distant, but warm, like it was calling to him. There was something magical about it, something that seemed to beckon him to come closer. Without thinking, Amir stood up and hurried inside, his mind racing with curiosity. He grabbed his coat, slipped on his shoes, and quietly left the house, not wanting to wake his parents. The night air was cool, and the silence of the village enveloped him as he walked toward the outskirts. He knew he had to find where the star was. It was as if it was guiding him, pulling him toward something unknown. As he walked further away from the village, the light of the star seemed to grow brighter, more intense. It was no longer just a distant glow. It now illuminated the path in front of him, like a lantern in the dark. The forest surrounding the village, which was usually dark and full of mysterious sounds, felt strangely calm. The only sound was Amir's footsteps as he walked deeper into the woods, following the light. After what seemed like an eternity, Amir reached a clearing in the forest. There, in the center, was a beautiful sight, a large, glowing rock, with a soft golden light radiating from it. It was the same glow that had come from the star in the sky. The light from the rock was so bright that it bathed the clearing in a warm, comforting light. Amir's heart pounded in his chest as he slowly approached the rock, his eyes fixed on its mysterious glow. Suddenly, as if responding to his presence, the light from the rock began to shift and swirl. The glow formed a shape, and before Amir's eyes, the star that had been shining in the sky seemed to descend, floating down toward him. As it came closer, Amir could see that the light was not just a star, but a figure, a being made entirely of light. It had no distinct features, no face, no form that Amir could recognize. It was simply a glowing figure, radiant and otherworldly, moving gracefully toward him. The figure stopped in front of Amir, and for a moment, everything was silent. Amir's breath caught in his throat as he stood frozen, unsure of what was happening. The figure then began to speak, its voice soft and melodic, like a whisper carried by the wind. "You have come far to find me, young one," the figure said. "I am the star that has traveled across the universe to meet you. My purpose is to bring you a message." Amir, still in awe of what was happening, could barely find his voice. "A message? What message?" The figure smiled, and its glow intensified. "The stars hold many secrets, Amir. They watch over the world, guiding those who are lost, bringing hope to the hopeless. But not all stars are the same. Some are born to bring light to those who seek it, to those who have a heart full of wonder and dreams. Amir, have that heart. Your dreams are powerful, and it is time for you to believe in them." Amir's mind raced as the figure's words sank in. He had always dreamed of being more than just a boy in a small village. He wanted to do something extraordinary, to make a difference, but he had always doubted himself. Could it be true? Could the star really be speaking to him? "The path ahead will not always be easy," the figure continued, "but if you trust in your dreams and never stop believing, you will find your way. The light you seek is already within you. You only need to let it shine." With that, the glowing figure raised its arms, and the light began to expand, enveloping the clearing in a brilliant radiance. Amir closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of the light surround him, and in that moment he knew something had changed. The doubts that had held him back melted away, replaced by a sense of purpose and clarity. When Amir opened his eyes again, the figure was gone, and the clearing was bathed in the soft light of the moon. The star had returned to the sky, its glow now a steady, reassuring light among the familiar stars. Amir stood there for a moment, taking in everything that had happened, and then, with a renewed sense of confidence, he turned back toward the village. The journey home felt different. The path was no longer dark and uncertain, but illuminated by the light of his own dreams. Amir knew that from that night on, he would never again doubt the power of his dreams. The mysterious star had shown him the way, and he would follow its guidance, no matter where it took him. And so, as the village lay asleep, Amir made a promise to himself. He would always believe in the impossible, trust in the light of his dreams, and never let the doubts of the world dim the brightness within him. In a quiet, almost forgotten part of the world, there stood a house, old yet graceful, with an air of mystery surrounding it. The house, with its worn-out walls and creaky wooden floors, hid a secret that few knew of. At the very top of the house, behind an old, slightly rusted door, was a room unlike any other. It wasn't filled with toys or books or the usual things one might expect from a bedroom. No, this room was special in a way that could only be felt and not explained. The room was simple in its design. It had a small window that let in just the right amount of sunlight during the day, casting soft, warm rays across the wooden floor. The bed was neatly made, its covers crisp and smooth, as if they had been arranged by invisible hands. Yet, despite the apparent tranquility of the room, something more subtle was at work here. The air seemed thick with an unspoken feeling, a sense of anticipation, as though something was always waiting. This was the room where sleep itself came to rest. Each night, as the world outside fell into a deep slumber, the room would begin to glow with a soft, inviting light. It wasn't a bright light, but a gentle, almost magical glow that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. The bed, simple as it was, had a charm that made it impossible for anyone to leave once they lay down. The pillow, soft and comforting, seemed to whisper promises of peaceful dreams, urging anyone who entered the room to stay, to let go of their worries, and to surrender to the pull of sleep. For years, people had come and gone, but none stayed long enough to truly understand the magic of the room. It wasn't that they weren't allowed to, it was just that the room seemed to have its own rhythm, its own way of calling to people. It invited them in, but only those who were ready to listen. Many who entered left soon after, unable to grasp the feeling the room offered. They couldn't stay long enough to experience the true magic of the place, the magic of waiting for sleep. There was one person, however, who had always felt connected to this mysterious room. His name was Ali, a young boy who had grown up in this very house. He had heard stories about the room from his grandmother, who had always whispered of its power, calling it the room where sleep waits. According to her, the room held the spirit of sleep itself, a quiet and patient force that waited for those who were ready to embrace it. Ali, though curious, never truly believed in the stories until one fateful evening when he found himself alone in the house. It was late in the evening, the kind of night where the moon hung high in the sky, casting a silver glow on everything below. The wind outside whispered softly through the trees, and the world seemed to be holding its breath. Ali, feeling a strange pull, walked slowly toward the room, his footsteps echoing softly through the quiet house. He had always been fascinated by the room, but tonight, something felt different. There was a sense of calmness in the air, a stillness that made him feel as though the world had paused just for him. When Ali opened the door to the room, he was greeted by that familiar, soft glow. The air felt warm and welcoming, like a blanket wrapped around him. He walked in slowly, feeling the weight of the room's peaceful presence. The bed looked inviting, and without thinking, Ali climbed in, feeling the soft, cool sheets against his skin. As soon as his head touched the pillow, a sense of calm washed over him, and his eyes fluttered closed. It was then that Ali felt it, the gentle presence of sleep, like a whisper in the dark. It wasn't an overwhelming force, but rather a gentle pull, as if sleep itself was waiting for him to surrender to it. He could feel the room shifting around him, almost as if the walls themselves were breathing in time with his own heartbeat. The air was thick with patience, as if the room had been waiting for him, waiting for the moment when he would finally be ready to let go. For what felt like hours, Ali lay there, in that room where time seemed to stand still, listening to the quiet, soothing rhythm of the night. His mind wandered, drifting in and out of awareness, as the gentle pull of sleep grew stronger. He could hear whispers in the distance, soft voices that seemed to be telling him stories, tales of distant lands and forgotten dreams. But no matter how much he tried to focus on the voices, they always faded away, replaced by the warmth of sleep wrapping around him. As he lay there, Ali began to understand something that had always eluded him. The room wasn't just a place where sleep occurred, it was a place where sleep waited for the right moment, for the right person, to embrace it. The room had no hurry, no agenda. It simply waited, patiently, for someone to be ready. And tonight, Ali was ready. As the night deepened, Ali's body relaxed fully into the bed, his mind quieted, and sleep finally embraced him. There was no struggle, no fight against the inevitable. The room, with its gentle glow, had worked its magic, pulling him into a peaceful slumber. And in that slumber, Ali drifted away into a world of dreams, where the wonders of the night sky and the mysteries of the world outside could finally be explored without fear or hesitation. The next morning, when the sun rose and the room was bathed in its golden light, Ali awoke, feeling more rested and at peace than he ever had before. He sat up, looking around the room with a sense of gratitude and understanding. He now knew the truth of the room's magic. It wasn't just a place to sleep, it was a place where sleep patiently awaited those who were ready to accept it. And so, Ali learned to never rush sleep again. He knew that the room would always be there, waiting patiently for him to return whenever he needed rest. The magic of the room had taught him a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the greatest things in life come to us when we stop chasing them and simply let them find us. And in that moment, Ali finally understood that sleep wasn't something to be forced or fought for. It was something to be welcomed with open arms, like an old friend returning home. In a small, peaceful village nestled between the rolling hills and gentle streams, there stood an ancient bridge, one that had been there for as long as anyone could remember. This bridge, made of smooth stone and covered in soft moss, was no ordinary bridge. It wasn't a bridge that led to another place, nor did it connect two separate lands. Instead, it connected two worlds, the world of dreams and the world of peace. At the edge of the bridge, a young girl named Noor often found herself standing. She wasn't like other children in the village. While they played in the fields and ran through the meadows, Noor would sit quietly on the bridge, her legs dangling over the edge, staring into the distance. The other children would sometimes ask her why she spent so much time there, but she would just smile softly and reply, "I'm waiting for the bridge to show me something." You see, Noor had always been fascinated by the idea of dreams. She had heard stories from her grandmother about a magical bridge that connected the world of dreams to the world of reality. It was said that if you stood on this bridge long enough, you could catch a glimpse of the dreams that awaited you, dreams full of wonder, adventure, and peace. But no one really believed these stories. They were just old legends passed down through the generations. Yet, Noor believed in them with all her heart. Every day, she would come to the bridge and wait, hoping to see something, to feel something. And one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the village, something extraordinary happened. Noor was sitting on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the river flowing beneath her, when she suddenly felt a gentle breeze. It wasn't the usual village wind that came with the setting sun. This breeze was different. It was soft, almost like a whisper, and it seemed to carry a warmth that wrapped around her like a comforting hug. Noor closed her eyes for a moment, taking in the sensation, when she heard a voice, gentle, like the wind, but clear as day. "Come, Noor," the voice said. "It's time to cross the bridge." Noor opened her eyes, her heart racing. She looked around, but there was no one in sight. The only thing she could see was the bridge, glowing faintly in the twilight. The voice seemed to be coming from the bridge itself, or perhaps from the space beyond it, a place she had never dared to enter. Without hesitation, Noor stood up and stepped onto the bridge. As her feet touched the stone, she felt a shift in the air around her. The world seemed to grow quieter, and the sounds of the village faded away. With each step she took, she felt lighter, as if she were walking on air. The bridge seemed to stretch before her, leading her into a realm she had never seen, yet felt drawn to. As she walked further, the world around her began to change. The skies above were no longer the familiar blue of her village, but a soft, glowing purple, dotted with stars that shimmered like diamonds. The ground beneath her feet became soft and cushioned, like walking on clouds. And in the distance, Noor could see it, a beautiful, tranquil world, bathed in soft light, where everything seemed calm and at peace. The world of dreams. She continued walking, her heart filled with wonder and excitement. As she neared the end of the bridge, she felt a sense of serenity wash over her. There was no rush, no need to hurry. She was in a place where time seemed to stand still, a place where worries didn't exist, and where everything felt safe. Noor knew she had found the world she had always dreamed of, a world where peace and calm were in abundance. When she stepped off the bridge and into the new world, she was greeted by a gentle, glowing figure, a being of light, with a warm smile and eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. "Welcome, Noor," the figure said. "You've crossed the bridge to find the peace you've always sought." Noor felt an overwhelming sense of comfort as she looked around at the serene beauty of the world. The air was fragrant with flowers, and the sound of birds singing softly filled the air. The trees around her swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling in harmony. The ground was covered in soft grass, and the entire world seemed to breathe in perfect unison. "This is the world of dreams," the figure continued. "A world where peace reigns, where your heart can rest, and your soul can heal. You can stay here for as long as you need, and when you're ready, you can return to your own world, carrying the peace with you." Noor felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had always dreamed of finding such a place where her mind could quiet, where her heart could find solace. And now, here she was, standing in the very world of her dreams. She spent what felt like hours exploring the peaceful land, her heart swelling with joy. She discovered a sparkling lake where the water shimmered like liquid silver, and she walked through fields of flowers that bloomed in every color of the rainbow. Everywhere she went, she felt the peace of the world wrapping around her, filling her with calm and contentment. As the night began to fall, Noor returned to the bridge, knowing that it was time to leave. She turned to the glowing figure one last time, feeling a pang of sadness but also a sense of fulfillment. "Thank you," Noor whispered, her voice soft. "This world is everything I've ever dreamed of." The figure smiled warmly. "Remember, Noor, the peace you feel here will always be with you. Whenever you need it, all you have to do is close your eyes and return to the bridge." With that, Noor stepped back onto the bridge, the world of dreams fading away behind her. As she crossed back into her own world, she carried with her the calm and serenity she had found, knowing that she could always return to the bridge whenever she needed peace. And from that day on, Noor visited the bridge every night, not always crossing over to the world of dreams, but simply standing there, letting the quiet of the bridge fill her heart with peace, and reminding herself that sometimes the most beautiful journeys are the ones that lead us to the calm within. It was a quiet night in the heart of the city, a city that never truly slept. The streets, usually alive with the bustling sounds of traffic, chatter, and footsteps, were now calm, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. The city seemed to breathe differently at night, as though the world was at rest, waiting for the dawn. In this peaceful stillness, there was one person who still wandered the streets, not in a hurry, but in search of something more, something hidden in the depths of the quiet night. Her name was Maya. She had always loved the night. While others preferred the energy of the daytime, Maya found solace in the calm and serenity of the evening. The gentle rhythm of the night soothed her soul, and the cool night air brought her a sense of peace. She would often take walks, letting her thoughts wander along with her as she strolled through the empty streets. On this particular night, something felt different. The air was lighter, almost as if it carried with it a special magic that she couldn't quite place. The usual scent of city life, the car fumes, the food from street vendors, the faint smell of the river, was replaced by something sweet. A soft, fragrant breeze blew through the streets, gently tousling her hair as she walked. It was the kind of breeze that felt like a whisper, as if the night itself was speaking to her. Maya paused for a moment, inhaling deeply, letting the sweetness of the air fill her senses. The breeze seemed to carry a melody with it, a soft, distant hum that reminded her of lullabies her grandmother used to sing. She smiled softly, remembering those simpler days when everything felt safe and carefree. She continued her walk, her footsteps echoing softly on the pavement. The city felt different at night, its edges softened, its harshness hidden under a blanket of stars. As she walked, she noticed how the buildings around her seemed to take on a different form in the moonlight. They were no longer just cold, steel structures, but tall, silent giants, standing watch over the streets. The lights from the windows flickered like tiny stars scattered across the skyline. Maya reached the park, her favorite spot in the city. The park was empty at this hour, just as it always was. The swings swayed gently in the breeze, their chains creaking softly, and the benches stood still, bathed in the soft moonlight. Maya sat on one of the benches, letting her feet rest on the cool grass beneath her. She closed her eyes for a moment, allowing the quiet of the night to wash over her. The breeze played with the leaves of the trees, creating a soft rustling sound that added to the peaceful atmosphere. In the distance, she could hear the faint sounds of traffic, but they seemed far away, like the hum of a dream. For a while, Maya just sat there, lost in the stillness of the night, allowing her mind to drift. She thought about how everything felt so simple in these moments. The noise of the world seemed to fade, leaving only the soft sounds of nature and the gentle caress of the breeze. As she sat there, something caught her eye. A light flickered in the distance, coming from one of the older buildings near the park. It wasn't the harsh, artificial light of the street lamps, but a soft, warm glow that seemed to pulse gently, like the beating of a heart. Curiosity piqued. Maya stood up and walked towards it, her steps light and quiet. As she approached the building, she found herself standing in front of a small, old bookstore. The light was coming from inside, and through the window, she could see rows upon rows of books. Maya had passed by this bookstore many times during the day, but at night, it seemed different, more inviting, as though it were calling to her. Without thinking, she pushed open the door, which creaked softly as it swung inward. The familiar scent of old paper and ink filled her senses, and she smiled to herself. The store was empty, except for the shopkeeper, an elderly man with silver hair and glasses perched on the edge of his nose. He looked up as she entered, his face breaking into a warm smile. "Ah, a late-night visitor," he said, his voice soft but welcoming. "What brings you here at this hour?" Maya smiled back, feeling the peaceful atmosphere of the place wrap around her. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I just felt like being here tonight." The shopkeeper nodded as if he understood. "Sometimes the night calls to us," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "It has a way of revealing things we don't see during the day." Maya wandered through the aisles of the bookstore, running her fingers over the spines of the books. She wasn't looking for anything in particular, but the peacefulness of the store made her feel as though she could lose herself in the pages of a good story. She pulled a book off the shelf, its cover worn and faded, and opened it to the first page. The words seemed to dance in the soft light, and she felt as though the book had been waiting for her, just like the night and the breeze. As she read, the world outside seemed to disappear. The soft rustle of the trees, the hum of the distant city, everything faded into the background. She was lost in the story, the words wrapping around her like the sweet breeze from earlier. The book was full of dreams, of adventure and peace, of things that seemed to exist only in the quiet of the night. Hours seemed to pass as Maya sat in the bookstore, reading and losing herself in the quiet world that the night had revealed to her. When she finally looked up, she was surprised to find that the store was empty again. The shopkeeper had disappeared, leaving only the soft light behind. Maya stood up, the book still in her hands, and made her way back to the door. She stepped outside into the cool night air, the sweet breeze still blowing gently through the streets. The city felt different now, quieter, softer, as if it too had been touched by the magic of the night. As she walked back to her home, Maya felt a deep sense of peace. The night, with its quiet beauty and sweet breeze, had shown her something important, that sometimes the best moments of life are the ones we find in the stillness, in the quiet whispers of the world around us. And as the stars twinkled above, she knew that she would always carry the peace of the night with her, wherever she went. It was a night like no other. The stars above glittered with an intensity that seemed unusual for a city so filled with lights. The world below was wrapped in a blanket of silence, broken only by the faint hum of distant traffic and the rustle of leaves from the trees swaying gently in the breeze. In this quiet world, there existed a small, humble apartment, where a girl named Sarah sat by her window, lost in thought. Sarah had always loved the stillness of the night. The daytime was filled with noise, obligations, and the rush of life. But at night, everything seemed to slow down, and she could finally hear herself think. The world, she believed, spoke to her in the whispers of the wind and the soft murmurs of the evening. Tonight, however, it felt different. There was something deeper in the air, as though the night was hiding a secret it wanted to reveal. She sat by the window, her fingers tracing the cool surface of the glass. Outside, the city stretched out, bathed in soft streetlights, and the world felt so far away. She closed her eyes, letting the cool night air touch her skin, and a strange sensation filled her, a quiet, distant calling, a whisper from somewhere deep within the night. It wasn't the typical peacefulness she usually felt, but something more profound, something that tugged at her heart and soul. The soft murmur of the wind grew louder, as if it was speaking to her, but its words were indistinct, just beyond her understanding. Sarah listened closely, trying to catch the meaning, but it seemed like the sound was coming from her dreams rather than the waking world. She felt her eyelids grow heavier, and soon she was slipping into a state between wakefulness and sleep, where the boundary between the two blurred. The world around her faded away, and she found herself in a place unlike any other, a dreamscape. It was a vast, open field under a sky filled with swirling clouds. The stars above twinkled brightly, casting a soft glow on the ground below. The air was cool and fresh, and everything seemed so serene, so perfect. The world here was quiet, but not empty. There was something in the stillness, something that resonated with her very being. In the middle of the field stood a large tree, its branches reaching up toward the heavens. The tree was unlike any she had ever seen. It was ancient, with deep roots and thick, gnarled branches that seemed to stretch for miles. Its leaves shimmered with a silvery glow, reflecting the starlight. The tree beckoned to her, and despite the inexplicable feeling of wonder and fear that filled her, Sarah walked toward it. As she approached the tree, she felt a warmth, a pull that felt both comforting and otherworldly. When she reached the base of the tree, she placed her hand on its trunk. The moment her fingers touched the bark, a soft voice echoed in her mind, a voice that was not spoken aloud but felt within the depths of her heart. "Do not be afraid," the voice said gently, like a soft whisper that soothed her very soul. "You are here because you are ready to hear the truth." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The voice felt so familiar, as if it were a part of her own being, yet it was distant, like an ancient memory, a forgotten truth. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words settle within her. When she opened them again, the tree had transformed. The silvery leaves were now a radiant gold, shimmering as though they were alive, and the air around her seemed to pulse with energy. "You have always been connected to this place," the voice continued, now clear and warm. "It is the place where your dreams are born, and where the whispers of your soul speak to you. Here, in the quiet stillness, you will find what you have been searching for." Sarah felt a surge of emotions rise within her. She had always felt like something was missing, as if there was a deeper meaning to her life that she couldn't quite grasp. The world around her seemed to spin, and her thoughts raced. She looked at the tree once more, feeling its power coursing through her. In that moment, the tree's branches seemed to lower, reaching out toward her, as if offering something she had been waiting for all her life. As the branches touched the ground, they revealed an opening, a hollow within the trunk of the tree. Inside, there was a small, glowing light, its soft, golden hue radiating warmth. Without thinking, Sarah reached for it. As her fingers brushed the light, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over her. The dreams that had always lingered in the back of her mind began to take shape. Faces, places, and memories she couldn't quite place began to appear before her. These were not just dreams, but pieces of her life, memories of past moments and future possibilities. The light within the tree was showing her the path, her true path, one that was always there, hidden in the depths of her soul. And then, the voice spoke again, this time with even greater clarity. Your journey is not about finding something external, but about understanding the depths of your own heart. You have always known the way. Trust in yourself. The golden light began to pulse with a steady rhythm, and Sarah felt her entire being resonate with it. She knew, without a doubt, that this was the moment she had been waiting for. The dreams she had chased for so long, the whispers of the night, the longing for something more, they were all a part of her, a part of this moment. As the light grew brighter, the world around her began to fade. The tree, the field, the sky, they all vanished like the last remnants of a fading dream. But even as the dream world slipped away, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace within her. She was not lost. She was not searching. She had found herself. Sarah awoke with a start, her heart still beating fast as she opened her eyes. She was back in her apartment, sitting by the window, the soft night air brushing against her skin. The world outside was still the same, calm, serene, filled with the same quiet beauty she had always loved. But now it felt different. She felt different. The whisper of the night was still there, still calling to her, but now she understood. The dreams, the quiet, the deep, comforting silence. It wasn't just the world around her speaking. It was a part of her soul that she had finally connected with. She no longer felt lost in the vastness of the world. She felt grounded, centered, and at peace. And in that stillness, as the night embraced her once more, Sarah knew that she had found what she had been searching for all along, the deep, quiet truth of who she was. The dream, the whisper, and the golden light had all shown her that peace could be found within, in the stillness of the night, and in the depths of her own heart. It was a night wrapped in stillness, a night so quiet that even the stars seemed to whisper secrets to the moon. The air was cool, and there was a deep, peaceful calm that covered the world like a blanket. In a small town far away from the hustle of the world, there was a house nestled in a corner where the sounds of the night only spoke of peace. The house had a small window that opened to the vast sky, and inside, a girl named Mira sat by the window, lost in the gentle breeze. Mira had always been drawn to the night. The world during the day felt too noisy, too crowded. But at night, there was a different kind of magic in the air. The silence of the night allowed her to think, to reflect, to listen to the quiet whispers of her heart. As she sat there, her thoughts drifted to a memory, one that had lived in her heart for as long as she could remember. It was a memory of someone she loved dearly, a love that had always stayed in her heart, unspoken but felt deeply. His name was Arjun, and their bond had begun many years ago, when they were children. They had been friends, inseparable companions who shared their dreams, their fears, and their laughter. But somewhere along the way, life had pulled them in different directions. Mira had moved to this quiet town, and Arjun had gone far away to chase his dreams. Despite the distance, the connection they had shared never faded. It lived in the silence of her heart, in the soft echo of their shared moments. That night, as Mira stared at the moon, she couldn't help but wonder where Arjun was, what he was doing, and if he ever thought about her. The question lingered in her mind, but it was not one she could answer. The distance between them had grown so much, and the years had piled up like stones, making it harder and harder to reach across. Yet, the love they had felt in their hearts had never truly gone away. It had simply been tucked away, waiting for the right moment to come back to life. The wind outside grew stronger, and the sound of rustling leaves filled the air. Mira closed her eyes for a moment, letting the wind wash over her. It reminded her of the times when she and Arjun would sit by the riverbank, their feet dipped in the cool water, their hearts light with laughter. Those days felt like they belonged to another lifetime, one full of simplicity and joy. But now, as the years passed, the world had changed. The riverbank, the laughter, and the lightness of their hearts seemed so far away. But then, something shifted. A soft, almost imperceptible shift in the air, a change in the rhythm of the night. Mira felt it in her chest, in the very core of her being. It was as if the silence around her was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. And then she heard it, a sound, faint but clear, like the distant murmur of a voice. At first, she thought it was the wind, playing tricks on her. But no, it was a voice calling her name, soft and familiar. Mira. It whispered, like a dream just on the edge of waking. Her heart skipped a beat. Was it real? Could it be? She stood up quickly, her feet trembling with excitement and disbelief. She walked over to the door and opened it, stepping out into the cool night. The world around her was still silent, but now it felt alive, filled with possibilities. And in that moment she knew that Arjun was out there, somewhere, thinking of her too. With every step she took, she felt closer to something she couldn't quite explain. The night seemed to guide her, as if it were leading her on a journey she had always been destined to take. She walked down the quiet path that led to the edge of the town, where the fields met the horizon. And there, under the vast sky, she saw him. Arjun stood there, just as she had remembered him, tall, with his familiar smile, his eyes warm and full of life. He was looking up at the sky, his thoughts lost in the stars, just as hers had been. The moment their eyes met, time seemed to stop. The distance between them, the years, the silence, all of it melted away in the glow of the moon. Mira, Arjun said, his voice soft, as if it had been waiting for this moment for as long as she had. I've missed you. The words were simple, yet they held a depth that Mira couldn't explain. She took a step forward, her heart pounding in her chest. All the feelings that had been tucked away for so long, all the love, the memories, the dreams, they rushed back in a flood. It was as if the silence of the night had brought them together again, as if the universe itself had conspired to reunite them. Arjun held out his hand, and Mira took it without hesitation. They stood there for a moment, just holding each other, feeling the warmth of their connection. In the quiet of the night, it was as if they could hear each other's hearts, beating in time with the rhythm of the world around them. The night was still, but in that silence, there was so much more than just the absence of sound. There was understanding, love, and a shared history. There was the promise of new beginnings and the comfort of old memories. It was in the quiet moments that Mira realized the truth. Sometimes, love didn't need words. It was enough to simply be present, to share the silence, to hold on to the connection that had always existed, even in the distance. And so, in the silence of the night, with the stars above them and the world below, Mira and Arjun stood together, knowing that they had found their way back to each other. The night had brought them together once more, and in its quiet embrace, they had found what they had both been searching for all along. A love that was always there, waiting to be rediscovered in the stillness of their hearts. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the stories of old, and Mira smiled softly, knowing that this was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where love was the only language and silence, the most powerful voice.